Good morning, children.
Good morning, ma'am.
We are going to start a new chapter today. Children, you might have noticed construction of buildings going on. Have you? Have you noticed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And how do they build the walls of these buildings? How do they build the walls? So if a building has to be constructed, they have to build the walls. How do they construct it? With the help of what?
Bricks and cement.
Ah, bricks and cement. So they will arrange the bricks in such a way, in a peculiar manner, and keep cement in between. And that is how they make the walls. Am I right? Yes. So you can say that these bricks, it depends. They might use stones, they might use hollow bricks, the normal bricks. So whatever it is, if they are using bricks, you can say those bricks are the building blocks of that particular construction of home or house or whatever it is. That particular building is made up of bricks. Bricks are the smaller units. They keep together so many such bricks in a peculiar manner and they construct the house. So bricks are the building blocks of that particular building. It can be house, it can be shopping complex, whatever it is, you can say these are the bricks are the building blocks. Am I right, children? Yes. Then, when you make a chain using beads, Muttamala, when you make a chain using beads, how do you make it? If you have some beads with you and you're asked to make a chain with that, so one by one, using the thread, you will take one bead after the other, you will arrange on the thread. And then once it is ready, you will tie and you can use it as a chain. You all have seen a chain made of beads. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes. So there in the chain, which is made of beads, you can say that the building blocks of the chain is the bead. The chain is made up of beads. Beads are the building blocks of the chain. Similarly, all living things are also made up of certain building blocks with which we all are made of. Several such building blocks will be arranged to form a living organism. Have you heard about such building blocks in living organisms? Anybody? Huh?
ma'am. Cell.
Cell, very good. So cells are the building blocks of living organisms. All plants and animals are made up of such building blocks. You call it a cell. You can even define cell as the structural and functional unit of all living organisms. If it's a living organism, it will be definitely made up of cells. So cells are the building blocks of all living organisms. So today we are going to start the chapter cell, structure and functions. You'll be learning in detail about the structure and functions of a cell. Okay, so let's start with the slide. So this is the name of the chapter, cell, structure and functions. Cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life or living organisms. It's a structural and functional unit of all living organisms, or in brief, you can say it is a structural and functional unit of all living organisms. All living organisms are made up of cells. All living organisms are made up of cells. And this also, I think you might be knowing, a group of cells. A group of cells in all living organisms, groups of cells are not there. There are some organisms with just one cell. So about them we will learn. I hope you know about them. So a group of cells will make tissues. Several tissues will make an organ. Several organs will form an organ system. Several such organ systems will make up an organism. I'll repeat once again. A group of cells will form a tissue. A group of tissues form an organ. A group of organs form an organ system. And several such organ systems form a living organism. Once again, we'll see the points discussed. What is a cell? It is a structural and functional unit of life. Cell is the structural and functional unit of life. Where do you find these cells? In all living organisms. All living organisms are made up of cells. And a group of cells will form a tissue. A group of tissues will form an organ. A group of organs will form an organ system. Several such organ systems will make up an organism. Is it clear, children? Oh, yes.
What is this tissue?
What is this?
Tissues.
Tissue, a group of cells. When so many cells group together, single cell you cannot call as a tissue. When so many cells are grouped together having the same function, a group of cells having the same function, you can call it as a tissue. When so many tissues with a similar function combine together, it will form an organ. And so many organs. Suppose you take your digestive system. Digestive system consists of your mouth or your buccal cavity, then esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So many organs. They all group together and form an organ system, that is your digestive system. And so many systems, digestive system, excretory system, respiratory system, circulatory system. So many such systems will together make up an organism. Okay, you will learn more about tissues in class 9. What you need to know is a group of cells performing a similar function is known as a tissue. Moving on to the next slide. Now we are going to learn something about the history of the cell. Who discovered it for the first time, who named it as cell. So those details you're going to learn. History of the cell. And the scientist who observed cells for the first time was Robert Hooke, and that was in 1665. In 1665, Robert Hooke observed cells for the first time. What did he observe? He observed thin slices of cork. Why thin slices? Because if these slices are very thick, you cannot get proper magnification. So it has to be made as thin as possible. And what is cork? Cork is actually a dead tissue taken from the bark of the tree. So it is from the cork is dead tissue. It is made up of dead cells, and it is found in the bark of the tree. And what he used to observe the cells was not a very sophisticated or advanced microscope, like what he did not use such a microscope like what we have today. He improvised a magnifying device. So the magnification of that particular microscope was limited. So with the help of that, he tried to observe the dead cells present in a cork tissue. And that was in 1665. So here is the picture of Robert Hooke, who observed the cells for the first time. And you can even see the magnifying device which he used to check the cork slice. Once again, in 1665, Robert Hooke observed the cells for the first time. What did he observe? He observed thin slices of cork taken from the bark of the tree. And are these cells, were these cells living? No. He observed dead cells. And how did he observe? Using a very simple magnifying device. And when he observed it, he found some boxes like this. When he looked through the magnifying device, the cork slice appeared somewhat like this. Or else you can say he saw some box-like structures box-like structures or compartments, or else you can call it as partitioned boxes. Partitioned boxes means boxes which are separated, boxes having a partition. So this I'm drawing on the partition. So this is the box-like structure, and this is separated by some partitions or separated by some walls. So such structures he could see, and if you observe, you can find that this picture, what I've drawn, resembles a honeycomb. Am I right?
Yes.
Honeycomb, the structure is like this, no? So many hexagonal cells joined together. So this is what he saw when he observed it under the microscope. He saw some partitioned. Partition means separated, not a single box, so many boxes or compartments which are partitioned, and it appeared like a honeycomb where the bees live and store their honey. Now moving on to the next point, he also noticed that one box was separated from the other by a wall or a partition. That is why it is mentioned as partitioned boxes. So many box-like structures or compartments he could see, and each box was separated from the other by means of some separation, wall or a partition. I'll repeat again. When Robert Hooke observed the cork slice through the magnifying device, what he could see was a set of box-like structures or compartments. And these boxes, he called it as partitioned boxes because each one was separated from the other by means of a wall or a partition. See, here you can see, this is what he saw. When he looked through the microscope, this is the figure, what he saw. So many boxes, but each one is separated. Okay. Now, he was the one who coined the term cell. He gave the name cell for each box. He coined the term, or he started using the term cell for these boxes. See, you can see the picture of cork cells and honeycomb. Honeycomb on the right hand side and cork cells. Aren't they so similar, children? Yes or no? Do
Yes,
they look
ma'am.
similar?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
And he gave the term cell for each box. The cork is made up of dead cells that I already told you. Cork is dead tissue made up of dead cells. But another scientist, his name is Anton von Leeuwenhoek. He observed living cells for the first time. The credit for observing cells for the first time, it goes to Robert Hooke. But that was dead cells. So if it is asked specifically in the question, who observed dead cells for the first time, or simply who observed cells for the first time, you can write it as Robert Hooke. But if it is asked who observed living cells for the first time, the credit goes to Anton von Leeuwenhoek. It was he who observed living cells for the first time. For that, he took a sample of pond water, some water sample from the pond he took, and he observed it under the microscope, and he could see living cells for the first time. And the microscope which he used was little more better than that used by our Robert Hooke, because it took place a few years later or many years later. So by the time the microscope also got developed a little more. Because 1665 Robert Hooke observed observed the dead cells, whereas Anton von Leeuwenhoek used an improved microscope to observe the living cells in 1674. Got all the points? Who coined the term cell for these boxes? Robert Hooke. And who observed living cells for the first time? Anton von Leeuwenhoek. In which year? In 1674. Now, We can classify organisms based on the number of cells. All organisms are not having the same number of cells. So the number of cells can be different for different organisms. Agreed? So based on how many cells are present, you can categorize them into unicellular and multicellular. Multi means many, uni means single. So unicellular organisms are those organisms made up of a single cell. They have just one cell. But not to worry, the single cell can perform all the functions carried out by the different organ systems or different tissues, organ systems, all that present in multicellular organism. Even with a single cell, they can manage nutrition, respiration, excretion, everything they can manage with this single cell. Example, amoeba, paramecium, bacteria. Amoeba and paramecium are protozoans. In microorganisms chapter, you have learned the different categorization or classification of microorganisms. Amoeba and paramecium are protozoans, and then we have our bacteria. See the pictures. Even yeast. Yeast is a fungus. All fungi are not unicellular, but yeast is unicellular. Yeast is a unicellular fungus. Paramecium, amoeba, bacteria, yeast, all these are examples for unicellular organisms. Now moving on to multicellular organism. The last point which is mentioned, I had already told you, even though they have just a single cell, the single cell can perform all the functions necessary to keep them alive, whether it is respiration, excretion, movement, growth, reproduction, everything, all the functions can be carried out by that single cell. Now, multicellular organisms are organisms like us, all the plants, animals, all these higher plants and animals come under this category. We are made up of many cells. Those organisms which are made up of many cells are known as multicellular organisms. And the cells of these organisms, they perform specialized functions, not like unicellular organism. In unicellular organism, just a single cell. So that single cell has to do all the functions. But in multicellular organism, many cells are there. So different groups of cells, they perform different functions. Most plants and animals are multicellular. Now moving on to the next slide. Children, you all have seen the egg of a hen. Some might be very fond of dishes made out of eggs. So egg of a hen, that's also a single cell. But usually we say a cell, if you need to see the cell, you have to use a microscope. But the eggs of birds are also single-celled structures. Eggs of bird, these are single-cell structures which you can see with your naked eyes, or you don't need any aids, or you don't need any microscope or magnifying device to see the eggs of birds. The egg of a hen is a single cell, and it is large enough to be seen with our unaided eyes. You know which is the largest cell? The largest cell. Anybody? Any guess, children? The largest cell.
Ostrich's egg.
Egg. Very good. Ostrich's egg is the largest cell. An organism with billions of cells. You know, we are made up of billions of cells, many cells, countless. So many cells are there in our body. But we also have developed from a single cell. Now we are saying that, oh, we are multicellular. We have many cells. We have many tissues. organ systems. But from where did we originate? From a single cell. A single cell, we call it as fertilized egg. We all developed from a fertilized egg. What will happen to this fertilized egg? And one more thing, this fertilized egg, you can even call it as a zygote. Fertilized egg can even be called as a zygote. You will learn in our next chapter more about all these terms: zygote, embryo, fetus. You will learn in our next class. So zygote is a single cell. It's a fertilized egg. It is from these single cell that all the multicellular organisms are formed. All the multicellular organisms, take the case of animals, human beings, we have formed from this zygote. This zygote, it's having just one cell, single cell. What will happen to the single cell? Divides and form a group of cells. Then you call it as embryo. Then embryo will undergo changes, or groups of cells will get differentiated. They form different tissues, organ systems, and finally it will change into a fetus. When the fetus is fully grown, the mother will deliver the baby. But from where did our life started? From a single cell. Even though multicellular organisms have many cells, their life also started from a single cell. The fertilized egg cell will multiply, their number increases as the development proceeds. When the single cell, what is the other name for fertilized egg? Zygote. Zygote or fertilized egg is a single cell from which we all have formed. That single cell will undergo division and form a group of cells. Then you call it as embryo. Then it will form organs, organ systems, etc. Change into fetus, and the fetus will be delivered by the mother. Any doubt, children? Understood the introduction part? What is a cell, Isha? What do you mean by a cell?
Ma'am, it is the structural and functional part of a living.
A functional unit of life. Okay. Who observed cells for the first time? Amin?
Robert Hooke.
Which year, child? 1665. Which year? Repeat.
1665.
Okay. What did he observe? Ken, what did Robert Hooke observe?
Cells is turning into tissues.
Once again, Ken.
Cells turning into tissues. Then tissues.
Did you understand my question, child? What did Robert Hooke observe for the first time? He told that, Amin told that he was the first one to observe cells. But what did he kept under the microscope to see, to observe? Who can help him?
Ma'am.
Lakshmi?
Ma'am, he observed thin slices of cork.
Thin slices of cork. Lynette, what is cork?
It is a dead cells.
It is a dead tissue taken from the bark of the tree. Okay, Ken, what did he observe? Which sample he took for observation?
Thin slice of cork.
Cork, thin slice of cork, or it is dead tissue taken from the bark of the tree. Okay, who observed living cells for the first time? Lakshmi? Lakshmi Nandakumar?
Ma'am, Anton von Leeuwenhoek.
Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Okay. Then what did we learn? The difference between unicellular and multicellular organisms. Advait Murali, tell me the difference between both.
Unicellular means that has only one cell.
Yes. And multicellular?
Many cells.
Yes. And unicellular organisms. Adelio, give me 2 examples. For unicellular organisms. You're saying something or I can't hear? What is the problem? Are you saying something? You send me the answer by message. Henin?
Ma'am,
Ah. Yes.
examples amoeba, bacteria.
Not amoeba. O is silent. So we call it as, if O is silent, how do you read it?
Amoeba.
Amoeba. And one more you said bacteria. Amoeba and bacteria. Then we also discussed about what Robert Hooke observed when he looked through the microscope. When he took a thin slice of cork and kept it under the microscope, what did he see? Vaishnavi?
Dead cells.
It is made up of dead cells, but exactly what did he see, Vaishnavi?
Ma'am, he noticed partition boxes,
Very good. And what did he call them?
cells.
Cells. Is it clear? Then, even multicellular organisms are formed from a single cell. What do you call the single cell? From where all the multicellular organisms are formed. Adikesh?
Ma'am, fertilized egg.
Or you can even call it a zygote. Okay, good. So let us continue. Now what we are going to learn is about the size of the cells. Are all the cells of the same size? What is deciding the size of the cells? Depending upon the function, very important to note, depending upon the function, the cells differ in their shapes and size. In the figure given, you can see blood cells, which are spherical in shape, muscle cells, which are spindle shaped. Spindle means when it is pointed at both ends, tapering at both ends, you can call it a spindle shape. Spindle shaped muscle cells you can find. Then very long and branched nerve cell is also shown. So are they having the same shape? Are all the cells having the same shape, children?
No.
No, they are having different shapes, different sizes. You can see nerve cell is quite long, but blood cells are not long, whereas muscle cells are elongated with tapering ends. So each one is having, or each type of cell is having a specific shape and size. And what decides the shape and size? The function it has to perform. Depending upon the function, their shape and size will change. So which shape and size is best suited to carry out its function, the cells will be accordingly shaped and sized. They may be oval, spindle shaped, spherical, elongated, so they can come in different shapes. And size of the cells you measure in terms of micrometer or microns, the unit for measuring length of the cell, because they are microscopic. So to measure their length, you use a very small scale that you call it as microns or micrometer. 1 micrometer is equal to 1 into 10 raised to minus 6 meter. Don't bother about that. Just learn that the unit for measuring the size of the cell is microns or micrometer. So what all points you learned here? The cells can be of different shapes and sizes. What decides the shape and size of the cells? The function it has to perform. Which unit is used to measure the cells? Microns or micrometer. Any doubt? Any doubt, children? Nobody is responding. I'm not able to hear you.
No,
Okay. Yes. Now we are going to learn about the smallest, the longest, and the largest cell. The smallest cells These are bacterial cells. If you're asked to name the smallest cell, you should write bacterial cell. What is its size? Size also you should learn, children. 0.1 to 0.5 micrometers. You should know it. These values also you should know. So bacterial cells are smallest cells. It is between 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer. So that is a picture of a bacterial cell. Then the largest cell is that of a ostrich egg. The egg of the ostrich is the largest cell. What is its size or what are the dimensions? 170 millimeter into 130 millimeter. Those are the dimensions of the egg of an ostrich. So egg of an ostrich is the largest cell. Smallest cell is that of a bacteria. What is the size of a bacterial cell? 0.1 to 0.5 micrometers. Egg of ostrich, just now I have shown the picture. That is the size of this one is 170 millimeter into 130 millimeter on an average. That is the largest cell. Now moving on to the longest cell, that is our nerve cell, and it can come up to 1 meter in length. Nerve cell is the longest cell. The size or the length can come up to 1 meter. I'll repeat the points once again. All these can be asked for multiple choice or name the following questions. The bacterial cells are the smallest cells. The size is between 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer. And ostrich egg, that is the largest cell. It's 170. The dimensions of the egg are 170 millimeter into 130 millimeter. And the longest cell is a nerve cell. Agreed? Okay. Okay. Now one more slide we will see. Already I told you about amoeba. Amoeba is a single-celled organism, or you call it as unicellular organism. And they have no definite shape. Amoeba is not having any definite shape. So you all have seen the picture of amoeba earlier. So again I'm showing you, this one is amoeba, and this is not having a fixed shape. And why it is not having a fixed shape? Because it keeps changing. Why it keeps changing? Because they have some projections. As you can see in the figure, there are some projections arising from its body. And these projections are not fixed. Projections of varying length coming out or protruding or projecting from its body, you call it as pseudopodia. If it is singular, you call it as pseudopodium. Pseudo means false, podia means feet. So false feet. Why you call it as false feet? Because it's not having any fixed shape. And if amoeba is thinking that, amoeba can't think, okay, I'm just giving you an example. If it has to move in this direction, then it will be projected, or these pseudopodia will be produced in that direction. And if amoeba finds a food particle over here, the pseudopodia will be produced in that direction to eat it, to engulf it, or to ingest it, or to take it in. So it depends on the need of amoeba in which direction they will produce pseudopodia. And why do they have these pseudopodia? They help in capturing the food and movement. They help them to capture the food and for moving from one place to another. So which is the unicellular organism that is not having any definite shape? Amoeba. Why you say it's not having a definite shape? Because there are some projections arising from its body. You call it a pseudopodia. That will keep changing its position.
How How does
Yes.
amoeba know where's the food? It has no eyes or ears.
They can sense. They can sense. They can sense. Being a living organism, they can sense its surroundings. They are capable of sensing. Okay, and accordingly they will put the pseudopodia in that direction and they will take the food in, and it also helps them in moving. Then in your body also, in human body also, not an organism, there is a cell which can change its shape. That is WBC or white blood cell. In your blood, there are different colored blood cells. Red blood cells, white blood cells, blood platelets. Have you heard about all those? Have you heard about these cells?
Yes, ma'am.
Red blood cells giving red color, helping in transporting oxygen. White blood cells fight against infections. Platelets help in the clotting of blood. You don't have to learn all that. I think you have learned in class 7. Am I
ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And white blood cell, which protects you from infection, they can change its shape. WBC is capable. There are different types of WBCs which you will learn in higher classes, but just learn this, just know this, that WBC can change its shape. And if you're asked to name an organism that can change its shape, Pooja, what will you say? An organism that can change its shape. Unmute, Pooja.
Ma'am, I can't hear properly. My phone is having some problem.
Who will tell me an organism that can
Amoeba.
change its shape? Amoeba. A cell that can change its shape? WBC. Then, what is the role or what are the functions performed by pseudopodia? Nivedya, what are the functions carried out by pseudopodia?
Ma'am, it helps amoeba to move and
Movement and also to
food capturing.
capture food. But what are these pseudopodia? Who will say? Surya, what do you mean by pseudopodia? What are they?
They are the cells which can change their shape.
No, it's not a cell. It's a part of amoeba. Who will tell me?
Ma'am, it's their form. Ma'am.
False feet. But other than that, just explain it, Tom.
Ma'am, amoeba have projections of
Projections arising from its
out of its body called
arising from its body. Okay, it's because of the changing location of the pseudopodia. Pseudopodia can come from any part of its body. So according to the position of the pseudopodia, their shape also will change. Hope you have understood, children. I'll check the time attendance once again. Alvin is present. Alvin. Alvin. Benedict. Any doubts, children?
No.
Shall we wind up? Yeah, thank you, children. See you next class.